Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to day 12 of our 15 days free training program on Python for AI. So, until now, we have learned about introduction to Python. So, what is Python and the history of Python and its versions. And also, we've learned about the 12 features of Python. So, these features make Python widely adopted and popular. And then we got to learn about the installation of Python on our local systems and how to set it up. And then we got to learn about Python IDEs or workspaces. So in these workspaces, we get to work with Python. So some popular ones are PyCharm, Jupyter, Spider, and VS Code. And then we've got to learn about literals. So literals are like fixed data which we give to the programs. And then to name these literals, we use variables or identifiers. So these variables or identifiers store the reference, which will point to the objects which consists of these literals or the data. And then we got to learn about data types. So there are 6 data types. And then we got to learn about typecasting techniques. And then we got to learn about operators. So in the previous classes, we have completed till these topics. So today, we are moving to something which is very important in programming, that is flow control statements. So firstly, what is flow control statements? So in simple words, flow control statements will decide how a program executes step by step. So normally, a program will run line by line from top to bottom, right? But sometimes we want the program to make decisions and repeat actions and skip certain steps. So sometimes we want our programs to make some certain decisions and we want them to repeat actions again and again, the same action. And also we want to skip certain steps. So this is exactly where flow control statements come into the picture. So if you take some real life example, think about traffic signals. So if light is green, you will say go. And if it is red, you'll stop, right? So in the same way, in programming, if the condition, let's say we took a condition and based on that condition, if that condition is true, we'll do some steps or some action. And then if that condition is false, we'll do another action. So this is how flow control statements will help our program to decide what to do next. So there are mainly 3 types of flow control statements. So they are conditional statements or selection or branching statements and looping, iterative or repetitive statements and then miscellaneous flow control statements in Python. So these are the 3 main types of flow control statements. So firstly, we have conditional statements. So these are used for decision making. For example, if we take some marks, so if we get 50 marks or greater than 50 marks, we'll consider as fail or else we'll consider as pass. So to make that decision, we will be using a conditional statement. And then coming to looping, iterative or repetitive statements. So what these do is they are used to repeat actions multiple times. So if you want to repeat some action multiple times rather than writing it that many times, you can just use a looping statement to repeat the actions multiple times. And then we have miscellaneous flow control statements. So these, what they'll do is they'll control the behavior inside loops. So this will control the behavior inside loops. For example, we have break, continue, and pass. So today we are mainly going to focus on conditional statements. So conditional or selection or branching statements. So why these are used? So conditional statements will help your program to choose between different options. So to perform different operations based on some condition, we use conditional statements. So in simple words, you can say the program will check a condition and then it will decide which action to perform. Let's say the condition is true. So if condition is true, the program will perform some X operation. And if condition is false, it will perform some Y operation. Imagine you just open a Swiggy or Zomato, okay? So if you select veg option, so the app will show you all the options in veg. And then if you select non-veg, it will show all the non-veg options. So depending based on your selection, the app will show different options, right? So it's similarly in Python, based on the conditions, if it is true or false, so the condition will decide which block of code to run or which operation to perform. So these conditional statements will depend on condition. So if condition is true, it will perform certain operation or it will run certain block of code. If it is false, it will run another block of code or it will perform Y operation. So in that way, conditional statements work. So there are mainly four types of conditional statements. So firstly, we have simple if statement, and then we have if else statement, and then we have if else statement, and also match case. So firstly, let us know about simple if statement. So simple if statement, this is the most basic decision statement. So using this conditional statement, this is like the most basic one out of all four. And how you can use this is, you can just give if. So if here is a keyword, okay? So if here is a keyword. And what you'll do is, if you'll write the test condition here in the parenthesis and you'll give a colon. So if your condition and colon, and then what you'll do is you'll write a block of code. If this if will become true, if this condition becomes true, you will print or execute that block of statements. So let's say I have some statement 1, statement 2 till some statement n. Okay. So what happens here is we will be giving a tab space here. So this is called like indentation. So what this indentation does is it will help us to know if these statements are within this if condition. So Python uses this indentation or these spaces to define blocks. So as these all are having the same indentation, so this is a block of statements or a block of code. So indentation or statements will define the blocks. So these statements, statement 1, statement 2 till statement n, these statements will run only if your condition here is true. So if your if condition here is true, then only your compiler will go into this if conditions and it will print these statements or this block of code. If it is false, it will not go into this control statement and it will just print the remaining other statements. So here, if your condition is true, these statements will be executed. So these block of statements which have the same kind of indentation. So you can give indentation using a tab space, or else you can just use spacebar also. So if this condition is true, it will print this block of code. And if it is false, it will skip this block of code, that is this total block of code, and it will just go out of it and it will print the other statements in your program. So these statements are just skipped. If your condition is false, these are skipped and it will print the other statements in your program. Let's say, for example, someone wants to enter a movie theater, okay? So if someone wants to enter a theater, they need to have a ticket, right? So here, let's write a code for that. So if ticket is equal to yes, so this is my condition. So if the ticket is yes, so if they have the ticket, they can enter. So we'll write a block of code inside of this if statement, that is enter theater and watch movie. So if you see here, I have given an indentation. So that is a space or a tab space, such that if this if condition becomes true, that is if your ticket is equal to yes, then this condition will become true and this block of statements will be printed. If your ticket is no, so if you don't have a ticket, you will just skip these statements, and if there are any other statements in your program, they will run that statements, or else they'll output nothing. So main thing you need to remember here is these statements need to have the indentations for sure. When you're mentioning some block of code inside of your if statement, simple if statement, they need to have the indentation for sure. Then only this block of code will be considered inside of this if statement. Now let's look at some code so you'll understand it in a better way. Before that, so this is the flow chart of simple if statement. So firstly, it will enter the if condition, if statement, and it will check the test condition. So this test condition, it will be checked. Okay. So if it is true, if your test condition is true, then it will execute the indentation block of statements that are statement 1 to statement n. And if it is false, it will just execute the other statements in the program, that is these. So outside of this block of code, what other statements are there, they will be executed. Now let's look at the coding part of simple if statement. So here we have a simple if statement such that here if you see, we are taking the input from the user for TKT, which is ticket, okay? So we are taking an input and that prompt of that input from the user is do you have ticket? So when I run this, so it will give me to give an input, okay? So if I give yes, so what happens here is first it will take the input from the user saying do you have ticket, and if I type yes, what happens is TKT, the variable TKT will be assigned with a string yes, okay? Then it will go to this if statement and it will check the condition here. So what is the condition? TKT dot lower. So if I type whether capital S or capital Y, ES in small letters, in any way, if I want to check with some string here, which is all small letters yes, right? So that is why I am using the lower function to convert any of these strings to lower and then check if they are equal, such that if they type any of these kind of yeses, because they are case sensitive, right? Python is case sensitive. So that is why if they type in any of the ways, it will still take that as a yes. So if I type, let's say all capital YES, so what happens then is, so if I type this in my input, so TKT will be equal to YES in all capitals. Then it will go to the if statement and it will check the condition. So TKT dot lower. So TKT dot lower means it will become all into lowercase. So it will take YES and it will equate with the string YES in all small letters. So if you see here, this is equal. So that is why here if condition became true. So as this if condition is true, these block of code or block of statements will be executed. So it will print enter into theater, print watch movie, and print enjoy the movie. So if you see here, as if condition is true, it will be printing the block of statements, these three print statements. After that, it will come out of this and it will print the statement. Go to home and open Python notes. So let's try with a no. Okay. So let me say, do you have ticket? No. So now when I give it no, so TKT will be assigned with a string no. And now it will check the condition. So I'll make this into lowercase. Still it is a small letters NO, right? So it will equate with YES. So what happens here is, as you can see, these both are not equal. So this relational statement, relational condition or operator will check if the values are equal. So if you see the strings aren't equal. So that is why this will become false. And these statements will be skipped directly. So print, enter into theater, watch movie, enjoy the movie. All these statements are skipped. So this block of code won't be executed because your if condition is false. And then it will move on to the next or the other statements in your program and it will print go to home and open Python notes. So even if when you're using a simple if, even your if condition is true also, after completing this block of code, it will still print other statements, right? So this will be printed because if you see here, here it is printed. So even if it is false, if your condition is false, so these block of statements will be skipped and it will still print the other statements in your program. So that is why this go to home and open Python notes is printed here. When you give, do you have ticket equals to no? And then moving on. So here we have a program for deciding whether the number given is positive or negative. So here we have NUT, which is a variable, and this is taking the input, enter a number. So this is the prompt here. And it is taking the input and converting that input string into int number. And that int number is being given to the variable NUT. So here what is happening is, firstly, let's run this. So we are running this code. So it gives enter a number. So let's give 5. So it output is 5 is positive, program execution completed. So this program is used to tell if your number is a positive, negative or 0, right? So firstly, when I give 5 for the enter number, what happens is 5, which is a string, will be converted into the integer 5 using the typecasting technique int. So by default, input function will take a string value and we can typecast it into int using the int function. And this will be the value 5 and this 5 will be given to NEUT. So now what happens is we'll move on to the if statements here. So these are simple if statements. So I have three if statements. First, it will check this condition. So this statement it will be checking and NEUT greater than 0. So NEUT is 5, right? So 5 greater than 0. So that's a true value. So as this condition is true, it will directly print. So we are using a format function. So NEUT is 5, right? So 5 will be printed in this place of curly braces. So 5 is positive will be printed. And then it will move on to this if statement and it will check. So 5 less than 0. So that is false, right? So that is why this block of code, the statements will not be printed. And then it will check if NEUT equal to 0. So is 5 equal to 0? No, right? So that is also false. So that is why this block of code will not be printed, and then it will move on to the next or the other statements in the program and it will print program execution completed. So that is why we'll get this statement. So now if I give a number which is negative, so let's say I'll be giving -9. So here enter a number equal to -9. First it will be taken as a string and then converted into int using the typecasting technique, and then it will check this condition. So -9 greater than 0. So that's a false. So as condition is false, this block of statements will be skipped and then it will check NEUT, that is -9 less than 0. So that's a true. So that's why this will be printed. So in place of NEUT, it's -9. So -9 is negative will be printed here. And then it will check this value. So this -9 equal to 0 will also be false. So this will be skipped as well, and then it will print program execution completed. So these are the other statements in your program. So that will be same for 0 as well. So first it will check the first two conditions, that is NEUT greater than 0, NEUT less than 0. So if I give my number as 0, so both of these statements will be false, and that's why these statements or block of code will not be printed and they are skipped, and then NEUT equal to 0. So as 0 equal to 0 will be true. So this will be printed. So 0. So NEUT in the place of NEUT, that's 0 value, right? So 0 will be printed in the place of curly braces. So 0 is 0 will be printed. And then program execution completed will be printed, because after running or executing this line, it will move to the next or the other statements in the program and it will print program execution completed. So now let us know about if-else condition. So this if-else condition or the statement, if-else statement is used when you want to choose. So this is used when you want to choose between two options. So for example, let's say we are having some elections, and if your age is greater than or equal to 18, you will be eligible to vote. Otherwise, you will not be eligible to vote, right? So there are two options here. Greater than or equal to 18, the eligibility is true, and then else, so that is less than 18, will be false. So then they cannot vote, right? So in this case of two options, we can use an if-else statement. So here the syntax of if-else statement if is the keyword and else is the keyword here. So if and else are keywords, and then first we'll write a if condition. If test condition, so here we'll be giving a condition. So if this test condition is true, then this block of statements will be printed. So if test condition is true, this will execute the indentation block of statements 1. So here also the indentation or the tab spaces is necessary. So due to indentation itself, you can identify the block of code which is for if and else separately. So then if this test condition is false, directly it will execute else. So here only one block of code will be executed. Both will not be executed, okay? Only one block of code will be executed. Either if block or else block. Only one block of code will be executed. So if you think of like entering your college gate with your college ID card, let's say. So if your ID card is there, the security will allow you inside. If it is not, he will stop you. So there are two options, right? So if ID card will be true, you will be allowed. If it is not there, you will be asked to stop. So the program will select only one of the two paths. It will not execute both the paths, only one of the two blocks. So here, this is the flow chart of if else statement. So it will enter this statements and it will check the test condition, okay? So here if you see in the if statement itself will be giving the test condition, and if the test condition is true, it will just execute the indentation block of statement 1. That is the block of code inside of if statement. So that will be executed if this test condition is true. And if that is false, it will execute the indentation block of statements 2. So that is here. So if statement, if the condition is true, it will execute the block of code inside of if statement, and if it is false, it will directly execute these statements, the block of code inside of else. And then after executing at least only one block of code, it will just move on to the next or the other statements in the program. So if you see here, if it is true, it will execute block 1 and then it will move on to other statements. Otherwise, if it is false, it will execute the block of code 2 and it will execute the other statements in the program. So this is how if-else statements will work. And let's look at some code right now. So if you see here, this is a program for checking eligibility to vote. So here we have, so firstly we are taking the age from the user. So using the input function, we will be taking the age of the user. So let me run this. Let's say our age is 20. So what happens here is, firstly, it will execute the prompt here. So enter age of citizen will be given such that user can input their age. Then what happens is this input function will take the input from user, that is 20 here. So it will take it as a string and then it will convert it into int using the typecasting technique int function. So this will be converted into int and then age will be assigned with 20. So this variable is assigned the value of 20. Then it will enter this if else condition statements and it will check first the condition here. Inside of if we have the test condition, that is age greater than equals to 18. So it will check 20 greater than equals to 18. So as we know 20 is greater than 18. So this test condition will become true. And as if condition is true, it will print the block of code which is inside of if statement. That is print citizen is eligible to vote. So that is why it printed this. If my condition is false, so let's say we'll be running the code again and let's say our age is 15. So here what happens is Firstly, the 15 string will be converted into 15 using the int typecasting technique, and then age will be assigned with 15, and this will be checked here. So inside of the if statement, it will check the test condition. So 15 greater than equals to 18. So as we know, 15 is a less number than 18, right? So this test condition is a false. So as the condition is false here, it will directly print the else statement or the else block of code. So it will print citizen is not eligible to vote directly. So in near the else, it will not check again any condition, okay? It will check the condition at the if statement itself. So if this is true, if the condition is true, it will print the statements inside of if block. And if it is false, it will just print the statements inside of the else block. So this is how if else will work. And then moving on, we have a program to decide whether the input is a digit or number. So let's run this and enter any digit. Let's say I'm entering 5. So what is a digit? So digit is something, a single digit which is from 0 to 9. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So all of them are digits. And when it comes to number, any two digit, so more than one digit numbers are numbers, okay? So like 12, 50, 67, 92, anything except the single digits, other all are considered as numbers. So if you see here, we are taking the input first, enter any digit. So I'm entering the digit, and this digit, which is in a string 5, this will be converted into the integer using the int typecasting technique. And then this will be assigned to the variable d. So 5 value will be assigned to d, and now d will be checked inside of this condition. So this condition here is if d in range 0, comma 10. So what happens here is 5. If your digit, if 5 in range 0, comma 10. So as you learned, range will be giving the numbers from the beginning value till the end value minus 1. So till 0 to 9 values will be get in this range of 0, comma 10. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So is 5 in this range of 0 to 9? Yes, it is there. So that is why this if condition here, it is true. So as the test condition is true, it will print the if block of code, the statements inside of this if statement. So it will print the d value, which is 5, inside of this curly braces. So 5 is a digit. So that is why 5 is a digit is printed here. And let's say I'll give some value which is other than digit. Okay, so let's give 50. So as you can see, 50 is a two-digit number, right? So first d will be assigned with integer 50 due to the typecasting technique, and then this will be checking d. If d is in the range of 0, comma 10, that is 0 to 9. So is 50 in the range of 0 to 9? No, right? So that will become false. So as the condition is false, it will directly print the statements instead of the else block. So that is 50 is a number. So as 50 is a two-digit value, it is a number. So other all values, that is 0 to 9, are called digits because they are single digit values. Now let us know about the next condition, that is nested conditions. So nested conditions means the condition which is inside of another condition, okay? When it comes to nested condition, what happens is we are writing one condition inside of another condition. So in this way, we can check multiple conditions at once. So sometimes one decision will depend on another decision, right? So sometimes you may have multiple conditions to check first. So for example, to vote, let's say the age here should be greater than or equal to 18. So this is the age criteria firstly. So this is the condition 1. And then the voting member should also be the citizen of India, right? To vote in India, he should be a citizen of India. So that it is a condition 2. So when we want to check like one condition based after the other condition, we can use a nested conditions. So this means condition inside another condition. So here if you see, firstly age is given as 25. So 25 value is given to age and citizen is given the value true. So what happens here is if age that is 25 greater than equals to 18. So first it will check these values. So is 25 greater than 18? Yes, it is true. So that is why after this if condition is true, it will enter the block inside of this if condition, which is this block of code. So inside of this first is again it is checking if one more condition, that is citizen. So citizen is a value true, right? So if true, so the condition is true obviously here. So that is why it will print the block of code inside of this if condition, that is eligible to vote. So this is how you can use multiple conditions. So condition inside another condition. So when do you need to use nested conditions? So when second condition will depend on first condition. So if you see here, first we need to check age should be greater than equal to 18, right? And then you will need to check if he is a citizen of India or not. So when second condition will depend on the first condition, then you can use nested conditions. And also for validation logics, you can use nested conditions. And also for multi-level decision making, you can use nested conditions. And also, you need to remember what is this second condition is checked only if your first condition will be true. So obviously your second condition depends on first, right? So this second condition will only be checked if your first condition, which is age greater than equal to 18, will be true. So this is called nested condition. And if you take some example, let's say, if you want to link it with a real life example, so think of an online exam login, okay? So first it will check username is correct or not. You will enter your username and it will check if your username is correct or not. And then after checking your if your username is correct, then it will check your entered password is correct or not for that specific username. So here first your condition is checking the username in case of login, and if that is a valid username, then itself it will check your password such that this password will match your username's password. So this is the condition 2. So this is the first condition and this is second condition, and this way itself your nested conditions will work. First it will check the first condition, and if this is true itself, then it will go inside of the block of code and it will check the second condition, and then if this is true as well, then it will print your block of code inside of this if condition. Then only you can log in basically. So now let us look at some code. So here we have a program accepting a numerical value and deciding whether it is positive, negative or 0, right? So here we have n equals to float value. So this n value is taking a float value from the input function. So when we enter a number, first it will be a string and then that will be converted to a float value, right? Then this n will be checked with if n greater than 0. So if that is greater than 0, then that will be determined as a positive value. But if it is not, so what does it mean? If n or the number is not greater than 0, it is either equal to 0 or less than 0, right? So then if this is false, it will directly go into the else block. So inside of this else block, it will go and it will check here. We have another if else. This is a nested if else condition. And here first it will check the if. So here we'll check the condition again. And if your n or the number is less than 0, it will be printing it as negative. And if this is also false, so n is greater than 0 is false and n is less than 0 is also false. So that is why it will go directly to the else block and it will print n or your number is 0. So that is how you can use a nested condition or nested if else. So let's just run this. So enter a number. First, we'll enter a number, let's say 6. So if you see here, it is given as 6.0 is positive. So what happened here is, first we are taking an input, let's say 6, okay? So it will be taken as a string due to the input function. And then due to the float typecasting technique, this will be converted into a float value which is 6.0. Then this will be checked with if first it will be checked in the if condition. So is 6.0 greater than 0? So this condition will be checked and this will be proven as true. So that is why as this if condition is true, this print will be working and it will print 6.0 is positive. So that is why 6.0 is positive is printed here. Then let's check with other examples now. So enter a number, let's say -1. So -1 is negative. So what happened here is first your n value will be taken as a -1 string and it will be converted into float using the float typecasting technique. So -1.0 and then will be given as the -1.0 value. So this is assigned to n and it will check the first if condition, that is n greater than 0. So -1.0 greater than 0. So if you see here -1 is less than 0, right? So this will become directly false. So as this condition is false, it will directly move to the else block. And inside of this else block, it will print this block of statements. That is, first we have if else block again. So it will check the if condition, that is n less than 0. -1.0 less than 0, it will check. So as this condition is true, this will directly print -1.0 is negative. So that is why we got this value. And let's say we are giving a value which is 0 right now. So we printed 0.0 is 0, right? So what happened here is, first we'll enter a number that is 0. It is taken as a string and that will be converted into a float and that value is assigned to n, which is a variable. So 0.0 assigned to n. First it will be checking if condition here. So that is 0.0 greater than 0. So this is false, right? Because 0 is equal to 0. So that is why as this condition is false, it will directly move to the else block and it will print the statements inside of the else block. And inside of this we have a if else again. So it will check first the test condition, the condition here if condition, that is 0.0 less than 0. So this is also false. So that is why as this if condition is false, it will directly print else block. So that is why 0 is printed here. So n is 0, right? So in place of n, so in place of this curly braces, n will be printed. So 0.0 is 0 is our output. So in this way, your nested if else will work. Then we have the program accepting two numerical values and deciding the biggest one among them. And also we are checking for equality also, okay? So here we have a program. First, it will be taking a value A. So enter value of A will be given to the user and that value will be taken as a int value. And then for B also, it will be taking a value in string and then it will be typecasting into int because of this int function being enclosing the input. So then A and B values will be having. Then if condition will be checked, that is A equals to B. So before knowing A is greater than B or A is less than B, we need to also check if they are equal, right? So first in the if case itself, we are checking if A equal to B. So if they are equal, it will directly print this both the values are equal statement. And if this equality is false, it will directly move to the else block and this will consider this block of code. So here we have again a if else block. So first it will check the if condition, that is A greater than B. So if A greater than B, A will be the biggest number, right? So that is why we are using a print function and instead of that I have written a string that is biggest equals to curly braces and as A greater than B will be true, so A is the bigger number. So in place of this curly braces, I will be printing A. You can also use if strings or simple prints also. Here we are using a format function. So dot format A. So this A will be printed in the place of the curly braces. And then if this is false, so let's say A greater than B is false. That is A less than B is true, right? So then it will print this else block directly, that is biggest equals to curly braces in the string dot format B. So A less than B means B is like the greater number, right? So that is why biggest equal to B will be printed. Now let's check the program. So first we'll enter a value for A. Let's say 4. Then we are entering B also. Let's say 4 for now. So both values are equal is printed. So what happened here is first A is taken as a string 4 and it is converted into int using the int function. So this value is given to A. And then for B, we are taking a 4 string again and it is converted into int function. So typecasting is happening here. And then it will take 4. So that is given to B. So A equal to 4 and B equal to 4. Now it will check the if condition first. That is A equal to B. So 4 equal to 4 it will be checking. So as this is true, as the values are equal on the left hand side and right hand side, this is true. So that is why it will directly print the statement which is inside of this if statement, that is both the values are equal. So that is why both the values are equal is printed. Now let's look at examples with other examples. So let's say 4, A is equal to 4 and B equal to 5. So here what happened is A will be taken as the int value 4 and B will be taken as the int value 5. First it will check A equal to B, that is 4 equal to 5. So this is false. So that is why it will directly go to else block and then it will print these indentation block of statements. So first we have a if condition again. So A greater than B. 4 greater than B it will check. Is 4 greater than B? No, right? It is false. So 4 is less than B. So that is why this will become false and it will directly print the else block of code. That is biggest equals to curly braces format B. So B is 5, right? So biggest equals to 5 is printed. Let's say we've given the values in reverse. This time we'll give A equal to 8 and B equal to 3. So biggest equals to 8. So what happened here is first A is taken as 8 int value, B is taken as 3 and then it will check A equal to B. So 8 equals to 3. So this will be false. So that is why if statement will not be printed and it will be skipped, and this else block will be printed. So instead of this else block, we have again indentation block of code that is of if else. So this is a nested condition. So here it will check a, that is 8 greater than 3. So as this if condition is true, 8 is greater than 3 is true, right? So that is why it will directly print this statement, that is biggest equals to 8. So that is why we got biggest equals to 8, and this will ignore the remaining else block. And then it will come out of the conditions and it will print any other conditions if they are here. Otherwise, it doesn't print anything, just like this. Now let's move on to the next condition or the program. So here the program for accepting any digit and printing its number. So let's first run the program. So here we have nested conditions itself. So if else inside of if else, and we are continuing it. So first let's enter some digit. Let's say 4. So it will print the digit and the digit's name. So what happening here is, first we are giving input, that is 4. So 4 string is converted into integer using the typecasting technique, that is value 4, and this is being assigned to the variable d. So 4 is assigned to variable d, and first it will check if d equal to 0. So you need to start from 0 till the 9, right? So as digits are from 0 to 9, you'll check from 0 to 9. So here first we'll check if d or the variable is equal to 0. So is 4 equal to 0? So is 4 equal to 0? No, right? So this condition will become false. So that is why it will be directly moving on to the else block. So inside of this else block, we have this block of code. So inside of this, first we have an if else statements. So then here it will check. So firstly, mainly it will have if else block here. So that is why it will check d equal to 4. So 4 equal to 1. So is 4 equal to 1? So it is false. So that is why what happens is this if statement will be skipped and it will directly move on to the else. So it will print else. So inside of this else we have again if else block or if else statement, and it will check d equal to 2. So 4 equal to 2 will be checked. So this is the condition here. So is 4 equal to 2? No, it is false. So as this if test condition is false, it will directly go and print the else block. So here inside of this else we have one more if else. So that is d equals to 3. So this is checking if d value is equal to 3. So d equal to 4 equals to 3. So that is also false. So that is why as this if statement or the test condition is false, directly it will print the else block. So inside of this else block, now we have if else statements. So here it is checking the test condition d equal to 4. So here 4 equal to 4. So that will be true. So as this if condition is true, it will directly print the block of statements inside of this if statement. So that is print curly braces is 4. So D is 4, right? So 4 digit is 4. So that's the name of the digit. So this is how you can print the digit and its name using the nested conditions. So even if you give any digit from 0 to 9, so it will still print. And if you see here at the last lines of code, so after 9 there are no digits, right? So in the last if else block, so if d or your value is 9, it will print. So 9 is 9 will be printed. If our value d is not from 0 to 9, then it will print this directly else block, because all if statements are till here, it will become false, right? So if our value is, let's say, 12, so all of the conditions, if conditions, will become false. So that is why. So here it will check 12 equal to 9, that will be false as well. That's why here it will print the else statement directly, that is print it is a number. So let's check this once. So as the digits are from 0 to 99 only, the last else block or the else statement will be print it is a number. So we are doing this and we are entering some value 40. So this is printed as a number except 0 to 9 digits. Other all values are numbers like double digits, triple digits, any. So in this way you can find the number and its name. And here we have generating the payslip of an employee. So first let's run the code and then we'll understand about it in detail. So first it is asking me to enter employee number. Okay, so employee number, let's give 123. And employee name, let's say John. So first, to calculate the total salary, first he needs to have a basic salary, right? So if he is based on his basic salary, we will be giving the other allowances like dearness allowance, travel allowance, house rent allowance, medical allowance, and life insurance, etc. So based on the salary, we will be adding other elements. So first, let's say I'm giving a basic salary of 20,000. So here, when I give the basic salary, so my pay slip is generated. That is basic salary and dearness allowance, TA, HRA, MA, and etc. And then my net salary, that is the total salary of employee at the end, will be calculated. So what happens here is, first it will take your employee number and then it will take your employee name and then we'll move on to the basic salary. So these both, so employee number is an integer value and employee name is an input value, that is a string value. So these won't be considered in your calculations obviously. Just for knowing what employee we are giving these. And then moving on, we have basic salary. So the value here given, it will be taken as a float value. So if I give 10,000, it will be taken as 10,000.0. So this will be taken as a float value because we are calculating some percentages and adding them, subtracting them, right? So that is why to have better calculations, we'll use a float input here. And then it will check first the basic salary less than equal to 0. So less than, so basic salary can't be 0 or negative, right? So that is why first that exception will be checking. And if basic salary less than equal to 0, it will print invalid salary directly. Otherwise, if it is greater than 0, it will move on to the else block. So inside of this else block, we have if else again. So here in the first if statement, we are checking basic salary is greater than equal to 10,000. So if the salary is more than 10,000, the DA is 2% and like 20% of the basic salary, and travel allowance is 15% and HRA is 10%. And then MA is 5%, GPF is 2%, and Life Insurance Corporation LIC is 3%. So based on the basic salary, our other allowances are calculated based on the percentage of it. So that is why, so DA will be 20% of basic salary, right? So that is why basic salary into 20 by 100, that is 20% of basic salary. That will be assigned to DA. In the same way for TA, it will be taking 15% of basic salary, and HRA, it will take the 10% of basic salary, and so on. It will calculate other allowances and funds as well. If your basic salary is lesser than 10,000, let's say. So if your basic salary is 5,000, 5,000 greater than equal to 10,000, so that will become false, right? So as this condition is false, it will directly move to the else block here. So it will move to the else block and it will calculate based on the salary. So here, when your salary is less than 10,000. So DA or the dearness allowance will be 25% and travel allowance is 20% and HRA will be 15%, basic salary is 6%. So as you see, we have different percentage calculations. So that is why we are using nested else here. And then GPF and NLIC are of same percentages. So here, after calculating the allowances and funds based on your basic salary, then it will calculate the total salary or the net salary. So if you see here, these are the other statements inside of this else block. So it will check first if this is true, it will be calculating these values. If it is false, basic salary condition is false, then it will move on to else and it will calculate these values such that the allowances and funds are calculated based on the basic salary. And after that, what happens is in the net salary, so we'll be adding the basic salary plus dearness allowance, travel allowance, and house rent allowance and medical allowance. And from this, we'll be subtracting the GPF and LIC. That is 2% and 3% values. So here. So like this, we can calculate the net salary of the employee. And then here, if you see, for displaying all these values, we are printing a neat group of print functions after your calculations. So here after this if and else blocks, so these are printed as other statements in your program. So after completing this if else, it will move out of it. So it will move out of this else block also and it will print the remaining or the other statements in this main program. So that is why it will print these all values. So here let's say first let's check the exception condition, that is let's give employee number as 8, name as John again, and basic salary, let's say 0. So if you see directly, the first condition, if condition, it is being printed as invalid salary. And as we move out of this if else, so if is directly printed, right? So that is why else block is directly skipped. And after skipping this, these are the other statements in your program. So that is why these are printed with employee number, employee name, and the remaining ones before they are assigned, right? So that's why it's coming like that. Let's check if your salary is less than 10,000. So let's say 5,000. Okay, that's the number and then name and salary is 5,000. So when I say 5,000, it will move first, it will check basic salary less than equal to 0. And as that is false, it will move on to the else block and it will check if else conditions. As here, the condition 5,000 greater than equal to 10,000 will be false. It will directly move to this else block and it will calculate the DA, TA and all the other values. And then it will calculate the net salary based on this formula we have here. So for 5,000, the 25% is 1250 and 20% is 1000 and HRA which is 15%, and in the same way GPF LIC it is calculated 2% 3% and it will be adding 5000 plus 1250 plus 1000 plus 750 plus 300 minus of 100 plus 150. So then at the end his net salary will be 8050. So in this way these values are printed. So in this way, you can use nested if else conditions. And then moving on, we have if elif else. So if elif else is used when we have multiple conditions to check. If we have two conditions, we'll just check with if else, right? But if we have multiple conditions like not only true or false or yes or no. We have multiple conditions we can use if, elif, else. Writing many nested if conditions will become too messy, right? As you have seen, it will be going on the nested conditions. So that will be messy. So that is why we have if, elif, else statements. So how you can use this is the syntax of if, elif, else is. So elif means here else if. So elif is just, if you get the full form, so it's else if. So first it will check the test condition of if condition. So if this test condition or the condition is true, it will directly print the block of statement 1 and it will be executed. So if this is true directly, what happens is it will skip all the other elif and else conditions. So first Python will check it condition one by one. First it will check if condition, then this elif, then this elif, and then else. So it will go in an order, right? So if your if condition here will become true, it will directly execute the first true condition, that is this block of statements instead of if, and this will skip the remaining. All the rest of the conditions are skipped and it will be not checking that. But if this is false, if the if condition is false, it will check the next, which is elif. So it will check test condition true. So if this is true, it will print the block of statements instead of this elif. But if this is also false, what it will do is it will skip this conditions and it will check the next condition. If this is true, it will print these block of statements 3. So in this way, if, elif, else will work, and after completing of this whole block of codes, it will print the other statements in the program. So here if, elif, and else are the keywords. So after checking all these conditions, let's say all the test conditions till 1 to n are false, then what happens is it will print the else block directly. So else block of statements will be printed directly only if all the conditions here in if and elif are false. So remaining else will be printed directly if these are all false. After that, it will move out of this statements and it will print other statements also if there are any. So in this way, if, elif, else will work. And so this is the flow chart. So first it will enter the if, elif, else statements and first condition, test condition. So let's say this is for if, okay. So if condition, it will be checking. And if it is true, it will execute the block of statements and it will skip all other statements and it will just move on to the other statements in program. That is, it will skip all other if, elif, and else conditions. And if there are any more conditions outside of your statements, it will print that. Otherwise, nothing will be printed, okay? Then it will check the next test condition. Let's say this is instead of elif. So instead of elif, we have a test condition 2. So if your first condition inside of if is false, it will check the next elif condition. So if this condition is true, it will execute the block of statements and it will move to the other statements in Python and it will skip these. But if this test 2 condition is false, this will go to the next condition and it will check. And if that is true, it will check and execute the block of statements. And if that is also false, if all your test conditions in if and elif becomes false, then it will execute the else block directly. So this is how if, elif, else will work. So let's look at some code. So we have a program for finding the biggest number out of 3 numbers. So we have A, B, C values. So first, it will take the input in an integer format for A, and then it will take input for integer format in B for B, and also it will take integer input for C. So first user will enter the first value, then second value, third value. So here, as we have three values, we cannot be like A greater than B or A less than B, right? You need to check if A is greater than B and C, and you need to check if B is greater than C and A, and you need to check if C is greater than A and B. So we have three conditions here, that is multiple conditions and not only two. So that is why first we have if condition and we are writing it in a parenthesis. So here to here, and inside of this we are checking if A is greater than B and A is greater than C. So if A is greater than B and C, so that will be the biggest number, right? So biggest out of A, B, C will be printing it as A. So if you see here, this is the first curly braces A, B, C. So biggest of A, B, C equals to A value. If your A is greater than B and A is greater than C. And then we have the second condition, if B greater than A and B greater than C. So if your B is greater than A and C, so B will be your biggest number, right? And then the next condition, that is C greater than A and C greater than B. So if C is greater than A and B, so C will be the biggest number out of those three. So that C will be printed as the biggest. If all these conditions are false, so A is not greater than B and C, B is not greater than A and C is not greater than A and B, then it will check equality. So if A is greater equal to B and B is equal to C, it will check. Then what happens is, if A equal to B and also B equal to C, all values will be equal. So this will be printed at the end. So let's just, first A, let's give us 3 and 4 and 5. So if you see here, A value is 3 and B, so A is 3, B is 4 and C is 5. First it will check A greater than B, that is 3 greater than 4 and 3 greater than 5. So this will become false. Then it will move to the next elif condition and it will check B greater than A, that is 4 greater than 3 and 4 greater than 5. So this is also false and will only give true in the output if both of them are equal. So if both relational operations or expressions are equal, then only you will get the output as true. So here both one is true, but this is false. So 4 is not greater than 5. So this is false. If you see here, both of the expressions are false. So the output is false. Moving on, we have C greater than 5, that is 5 greater than 3 and 5 greater than 4. So here 5 greater than 3 is true and 5 greater than 4 is also true. So that is why we'll get an output true. Then it will print biggest of 3, 4, 5 equal to 5. That is C. So that is why we've got biggest 3, 4, 5 is 5. So if I try to do enter first value 3, second value 3, third value 3. So here it will be checking if 3 is greater than 3 and 3 is greater than 3. So obviously both are false because 3 is not greater than 3. And the same way it will be checking the same thing here. So as all of these if elif conditions are false, then it will move to the next elif condition and it will check A equal to B, that is 3 equal to 3 and B equal to C, that is 3 equal to 3. So as these are true, your output will be true, and as this condition is true, it will directly print all values are equal. So that is why we got all values are equal here. And then moving on, we are using this if else conditions for printing any digit and its name. As we used this same thing in using nested conditions also, we have done this, right? So instead of that, as we have multiple options here, we are using a elif condition. So if elif else. So let's enter some digit 3. So we got it. So what happened here is, first D is taken as 3 integer value due to the typecasting, and then it will check the first if value. So if d equal to 0, so 3 equal to 0, so that will become false. So that is why it will not print this statement, and it will move to the next elif condition, and it will check the condition 3 equal to 1. So that is also false. That's why it will not print this, and it will move to the next elif condition, and it will check 3 equal to 2. So that is also false, and it will move to the next elif condition. Now it will check 3 equal to 3. So as this is true, it will print in the curly braces d, it will print that is 3. 3 is printed. And other all statements are just skipped. Now let's say I have a value which is not a digit. Okay, let's give 44. Now what happened here is, first d value is taken as 44, right? So it will keep on checking 44 equal to 0. So that is false. And then it will move to elif 44 equals to 1, false. 44 equals to 2, false. And so on. All conditions here will be false, right? So all if and elif conditions will be false. And then it will move on to 9 also. So it will check with 9. So 44 equals to 9 is also false. So as all of the conditions are false from if to elif conditions, at the end we have else condition. So this will be printed. So that is d. Here d value is number. So 44 is number. So as it is a double digit number, so double digit value, right? So that is a number and it is not a digit. So that is why as all conditions are false, it will directly print the else statement 44 is number. So in this way, you can use elif conditions when you want to handle multiple decisions cleanly. So instead of using number of nested if conditions, so it will become too messy. So you can use elif conditions. So that is if elif else statement to handle multiple decisions cleanly. Now, let us know about the fourth type in conditional statements. So here we have match case statement. So this feature is actually introduced in 3.10 version. So from that version itself, it was introduced and it works similar to switch case. So if you have worked with C or C++, there's something called as switch statements. So this match case is almost similar to it works similar to switch statements in other languages like C. So this match case, it is very useful when we have many predefined choices. So when we have predefined choices, we know what are all the options. Then we can use predefined choices or conditions. When we know all of the conditions, we can use the match case statements. And these match case statements are used to handle menu-driven applications. So if we have all the options we want to execute like a menu, right? Then we can use a match case statement. So for example, think of it like an ATM machine menu. So when you work with an ATM machine, it will have some options, right? Like withdraw, deposit, balance to check the balance, and savings, and also exit option. So like that, when you have number of options and you know them and they are predefined conditions or choices, then you can use a match case statement. So the syntax of match case statement is, we have the keywords match and case here. So what you'll do is, you will have the keyword match and you will be writing an expression or choice expression, colon. So this choice expression can be an integer value, string value, or boolean value. And then what it will do is, it will check the case. So this is also keyword and label 1. So if your choice expression will match with the label 1, it will print the block of statements 1. instead of this label 1. And if it's matching with the label 2, it will print block of statements 2. And so on till n. We'll be checking number of menu options. And here, if these all cases are false, so we have a case underscore. So here underscore, this is treated as a default value. So underscore's case will act as a default value, and depending on the choice, the machine performs the action. So this is why this is used for menu-driven applications. For example, it is used in arithmetic calculators and menu-based applications, and also option selection systems. So here the match and case are keywords, and the choice expression instead of match keyword is there, right? So the choice expression. So this can either be int value or string value or boolean type. So this can be of these values, and if your choice expression will match with the label 1. So case is the keyword and you have label 1 colon. So if your choice expression matches with case label 1, that is label 1, then it will execute the corresponding block of statements, and then it will later execute the other statements in the program. So if the choice expression is not matching with any of the specified case labels, like label 1, label 2, label 3, what happens is it will directly execute the default case block of statements. So as we've seen, case underscore, so this is treated as default. And if all the other cases are not matching the labels, then it will print the default case block. And then later it will print other statements in the Python. If there are any there, it will be printing that. And also writing this default block is optional. Now let's move on to the coding part. So here we have a program for demonstrating match case. So we are just printing if the week of the day is a working day or a holiday or weekend. Okay. So now I am giving the entire week name. Let's say Monday. So Monday is a working day. It is given. So here what happened is the week name variable will be equals to our input, that is Monday, which is a string. Okay. So we have a string Monday. And then here match week name. So match what we are matching with. So we are matching Monday with the labels. So this is a string here and we are matching these. So first case we have Sunday string. So is Monday string equal to Sunday string? So are they matching? No, right? So this is not matching. So this will not be printed. And then it will move on to the next case. So here if you see case, capital MONDAY. So if you see here, our string and case label Monday, they both are matching. So that is why as this is matching, this block of code will be printed. So it will print Monday is a working day. So that is why we got Monday is a working day here. And in the same way, you can also check Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday also. And it will print it corresponding values, that is working day, weekend. And here the default case is print the WK name is not week of day. So let's say I've given let's say when I'm printing this, I've given some random value. So this will be printed as this is not week of day. So if your word or a string is not matching with your labels, as this random string is not equal to or matching with any of the case labels, default case will be printed, that is your string is not weekday. But here you need to observe some exception, that is, if I give the input as all small letters, let's say, okay, Monday in all small letters I am giving. So is Monday a not weekday? We got Monday is not weekday, right? Is Monday not weekday? It is, right? It is a working day. If you see here, we have a case of Monday, it is a working day. But as I've given all of them in lowercase, so as Python is case sensitive, this value is not equal to this value. So that is why what's happening is all of these case values are becoming not equal. So they are becoming like false, and it is directly printing the default case. That is print, it is not weekday. So in this case, what I can use is I can just give both of the values, that is capitals and small letters. So capital letters uppercase Sunday and lowercase Sunday, I am giving the case label with the OR operation. So it will check if your week name, if I give Sunday, it will check with both of the values. So all uppercase letters or all lowercase letter also it will check. So let's demonstrate this first. So our week name here. So here let's say I'm giving a week name Sunday. So even if I give it in all capital letters like SUNDAY, so both, so this program works with both uppercase letters and also lowercase letters. So as we have given OR statement, if at least one of them is true, like it is equal, then it will print the print statement inside of this case block. So as this value is equal to this value, Sunday here, capital Sunday, so it will print Sunday is a holiday. If your week name is all small letters also, then it will be matching with this case and it will print small letters Sunday is a holiday. So rather than this, we can, so if you see here, what we can do is we can just do dot upper. So what upper function does is it will change all the input value into uppercase, right? So due to this, if I give, let's say here, so here I've put the upper value and I'm giving the values in lowercase. So if you see, this is also working. What happens here is when we given input of all lowercase letters, due to this dot upper function, this will be converted into capital SUNDAY. And that is why this directly will match with the case label here. Or else you can also do one more thing, that is rather than changing your input, you can change your choice expression also. So it will take the value and it will check upper value. So your WK name will still be all small letters, lowercase letters. And when you're matching, that is a choice expression, when you're checking, what happens is WK name will be converted into upper, that is SUN Sunday. And that will be checked with your case labels. And if it matches, it will be printing the statement. So you can either do here or here also. And you can use lower function also in the same way. So here if you see, for Monday to Friday, all of them are working days, right? So why don't we just keep all of these in one case? So that is why here if you see, we are doing week name, we are taking as WK name and you are matching the week name. If case is, the label is Sunday, capital, all capital letters or small letters, it is Sunday is holiday. And if your case label is capital letters Monday or uppercase or lowercase Monday or uppercase or lowercase Tuesday, till Friday it will check and it will be printing the WK name. So the week name, if it is Monday, it will print Monday is a working day. And if it is Wednesday, it is printing Wednesday is working day. So you're just rather than putting all these amount of lines, you can just put it in a single line because all of them will just give the name of the week and is a working day, right? And also if it is Saturday, directly Saturday is weekend. So that's a different one. So here we concise the long code into three case values. And the default case will be the string is not a weekday. And then moving on, if you see here in the match choice expression, as I've used uppercase before, here we are using lowercase. So in this way, you can also check your week. So when I do this, what happens is if I give it in all uppercase letters, that is Teustay. So this will give me Tuesday is a working day. So what happened is here is it will take the WK name as TUESDAY in all capital letters. And when I'm matching the choice expression, it will convert this into lowercase using the dot lower function. And then it will check with each and every case. So lowercase will be TUESDAY, right? And then that will be here. It will be matching here in this case. And then it will print Tuesday is a working day. So you are not changing WK name, and only when you are checking the choice expression, you will be considering the lowercase of your string and you'll print it in that way. And then we have program implementing for menu driven applications also, as we have talked about it before. So here we have arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So let's first print this. So here if you see, we are getting arithmetic operations list. So this is like a menu, right? First option will give me addition. Second will give me subtraction. Third option will give me multiplication of two values. Fourth option division. Fifth option floor division. Sixth option modular division. And seventh option exponentiation. And then eighth option will give me exit. So when I want to exit from this menu driven application, I'll give 8 value. So first I want to do addition. So I'll give enter my choice, that is 1. So enter first value for addition. So I'm giving 3. And enter second value for addition, I'll be giving 5. So this will take in a float value. So sum of 3.0 to 5.0 is 8. So if you see here, first it will print all the menu. Basically, it will print the menu for us in a string format. And then ch value. So here ch value will take the input of the choice I want to print. So what operation I want to do, I'll just give the number. So this input will be converted into int. So if I give 2, that will be a subtraction, so internally. So ch, let's say I have given 1 here. So for addition, I have given 1, right? So ch will be equal to 1 integer value. And then here match ch. So match 1. So now we are matching the options or the case labels with 1. Okay. So first we are matching this with the first case. So case 1. So as it is matching, these operations or these statements will be executed. So n1 equal to enter first value for addition will be printed and it will print the string and this will take the value which I will give and n1 will be equal to 3. And then it will print enter second value for addition and it will take 5 value in a float format and n2 will be 5.0. Then it will print sum of 3.0 and 5.0 equal to the value. So if you see here, we are performing the addition inside of this format only, that is n1 plus l2. So 3.0 plus 5.0 will give me 8.0. So that's the output we'll get. So let's say I want to do one more other operation right now. So now my choice is 2. That is, I want to do subtraction. So enter two values for subtraction. So at once I'm entering two values, that is 6, comma 4. So the subtraction, what happened here is CH will be given as 2 value. And here we are matching 2 with the case labels. So first it will check here, case 1. So is 2 equal to 1? No, right? So this is wrong and these won't be executed and it will move to the next case. So case 2. So 2 is equal to 2. So that is why these will be executed. So print enter two numbers for a subtraction. So it will take two numbers n1 and n2 respectively. This is a multiple assignment or multi-line assignment and it will print the float values. So subtraction of 6.0 and 4.0 will give me n1 minus n2. So here we are performing the subtraction, that is 2.0. So in the same way we can get all the arithmetic operations. By choosing our choice we can get the operations. So if I print this, so let's say I want to exit from this code here. Now I'll press 8 and exit, and that will be exiting from the code. So here we are using exit predefined function to terminate the program. So thanks for program will be printed and it will be exiting the program. And default cases, your selection of operation is wrong. So if all of the values here, like from 1 to 8 values, if all of the cases will become false, it will print the default case, right? So other values like you can use 0 or 9 or some number, 2-digit number. If you give that, all these case values will not match with your choice expression, right? So that is why it will not match with the CH value. CH value will not match with the labels. So that is why it will printing the default value, that is your selection of operation is wrong, execute again. So this way the match case statements work. And today, today we've learned about the conditional statements in the flow control statements. So the conditional statements are simple if statement and also if else statement. And in this we have nested conditions. So nested if or nested if else. And also we have if elif else. When you have multiple conditions to check, you can use this. And when you want a menu driven applications kind of thing, you can use a match case statement. So these are used when we have predefined conditions or choices. So that's it for today. We've learned about the conditional statements. Tomorrow we'll be learning about the remaining flow control statements. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat box. And if you want to visit the previous videos, you can go to the Python for AI 2026 playlist in our channel and you can revise the before topics or watch the videos from day 1 to day 11. And if there are any friends of yours, please share it to them so it will be useful for them as well. So finally, if you like our content, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button and share it with your friends who want to learn Python. And please wait for the feedback form. It will be shared in the chat box. And then after filling it, you can leave the class. So we'll meet again in the next class. Thank you for listening. Thank you.